Volume cures variance is one of my favorite sayings in poker because I turned $50 into $350,000 as a young poker player when I was 18 years old simply by sitting down and playing a ton in a game where I have a tiny edge. And everyone still has that opportunity today. You just have to be willing to sit down and put in the volume. You have to put your butt in the chair and play tons of hands or play tons of tournaments. Understand that there is a lot of variance in poker in the short run. In any individual day, at pretty much any form of poker, anyone can win. However, there is almost no variance in the extreme long run. However, most people don't want to do the work to actually get to the extreme long run. They feel like they're playing a lot because they put in a lot of time. But that does not necessarily mean they're actually putting in substantial volume. Also understand that different formats of poker have different amounts of variance. For example, if you play 1,000-person poker tournaments, the top 5 or 10 people end up getting a lot of money and everyone else gets nothing or close to nothing. Which means a lot of the time, you're going to be down in those games. And when you do win, it's going to be very sporadic, and it's going to usually be for a huge amount. If you compare that to cash games, usually you're going to be up or down 1, 2, or 3 buy-ins on any individual day, and your graph is going to trickle upwards nicely if you have a good edge. Understand, to win at poker, you only need to do 3 things. You need to find a game you can beat. If you do not have an edge, you will lose. Period. Next. Number 2, you have to play it a lot. You need to put in good volume. And number 3, keep a proper bankroll. Even if your edge is tiny, if you play a lot, you will crush it. And I'm about to show you how I did that as a young poker player when I turned $50 into $350,000 without even being all that much better than my opponents. Before we move forward, understand that time does not necessarily equal volume. A lot of players think that they played a lot because they played 3 days a week. But understand, if you play one tournament that's a turbo for 3 days a week, you've put in basically no volume. You actually win or lose some amount of money in each cash game hand you were dealt in, or in each tournament you buy in for. But that amount will change based on your game selection, either because your opponents are tougher in one game or the other. Maybe the structure is more turbo-y in one game or the other. Maybe you have a particular edge with deep stacks or shallow stacks, whatever. Your win rate in each individual game will rarely be the same. But as we move forward, we are going to try to simplify this to a situation we can very easily analyze using a website called Prime Dope. They have variance calculators there, and we are going to go through how much variance you will experience in various forms of poker that you, right there watching, are likely to play. So, how did I turn $50 into $300,000? It was actually a whole lot more. Well, I played a ton of low variance games with a small return on investment. I made almost no money per game that I played. I would play 9-handed sit and goes, where 3 people would get paid. First would be 50% of the money. Second would be 30% of the money. Third would be 20% of the money. Everybody else would get nothing. And I would play roughly 100 games each day. And throughout my hardcore grinding sit-and-go career, I had between about a 3% return on investment and a 10% return on investment. Not that much. If I played a $100 buy-in game, I expected to get back about $5 profit. 5. It's not a lot. However, I would sit down and I would grind. I would play about 100 games per day. Towards the end of my career, I learned how to play even more tables at a time, and I would play even more games per day. So take a look at this graph. We're going to be looking at a lot of graphs like this. This graph shows how much you win on any individual sample. A sample in this graph is 1 day, 100 sit-and-goes. This is 100 sit-and-goes. You can see it right down here. This black line here is how much you will profit on average, which, notice, is about $500, give or take, which makes sense, right? Let's get out the calculator just to confirm I know what I'm talking about. In this scenario, we were playing 100 tournaments, and I expect to make 5% return on investment, which is $5 per game in $100 games. That is $500. We're going to make $500 on average per day. Okay, each of these other lines on this graph, the jagged ones, this shows how much we will be up or down if we do this 20 times. So each of these lines is a day. If you play 20 days, you'll experience results something like this. Sometimes you'll crush them. You'll win $2,500. Sometimes they'll crush you. You'll be down $1,800. We have these confidence intervals here as well. You'll find 70% of your results will be in this middle green line. 95% will be in this second slightly lighter green bar, and then 99.7% will be in this super duper light green bar. You're not going to experience results way out there all that often. What this shows is that your results are going to be all over the place on any individual day. And that is true. Your results playing this form of poker with a tiny edge will be all over the place on any individual day. Fine. I don't really care. Let's zoom out. Let's play a week. Let's play 700 games. Back when I was a young kid, I took no off days. I would grind hard. I did not mind. So now, we are playing, as you can see down here, 700 games. And as you see, still, we're going to experience a lot of variance. Here's the 0 line right around through here. You see, over the course of a week, we're going to have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 or 5 losing weeks out of 20. Are you cool having 4 or 5 losing weeks out of 20? Some people are, some people aren't. Again, I personally don't care because I zoom out. And I recommend you zoom out too. Understand that if you find a game you can beat, play it a lot, and keep a proper bankroll, you will win. Notice, sometimes we absolutely crush them. Sometimes we don't. On average, though, we are going to be up $3,500 each week. Next, let's zoom out a little bit more. What about a month? 2,800 games. Now you see, we are going to have a winning month the vast majority of the time. I played sit and goes pretty hard like this for about 2 years, and I had 3 or 4 losing months in the 2 years. And if you look at this, you can actually see that kind of makes sense, right? 95% of the time, I'm going to be roughly positive. And again, it doesn't really matter what happens over the course of any individual month because I'm not playing poker for only a month. I am playing with a tiny edge over and over and over and over and over again. Now you see, though, the results are starting to trickle up, but there's still a lot of variance. Some months we're going to win $25,000. Some months we're still going to lose a little bit. Fine. Don't be a baby. Sometimes you're going to win, sometimes you're going to lose. Let's zoom out a little bit more because we are pros. We're going to play for a whole year, 35,000 games. This is where things start to look quite beautiful. Because despite the fact that I have almost no edge in this game, we are playing a low variance form of poker. And we're playing it a lot. We found a game we can beat, just barely, but we're playing it a lot. And as you see now, all the results pretty much go straight up. Now, sure, some years are going to be better than others. Some years are going to be worse than others. This is 20 years. And as you see, as you zoom out farther and farther, your results start to get, relatively closer and closer to each other. Some years, it's going to be bad. If you have a really bad year, you're only going to win about $80,000 or $90,000. Tough luck for you. If you have a great year, you're going to win like $300,000 or something. But, most of the time, you're going to be right in this band, right in here. This is 70% of your wins. This is 95% of your, well, not 70% of your results for this band and 95% for this band. And you're going to get between something like $250K and $150K each year, pretty much consistently. Now, back whenever I was doing this, I was winning at 5% return on investment, and I was getting about 5% return on investment in rakeback, which was just deposited into my account, which was consistent money, which is quite nice. So I was winning at double this, which is good. Obviously, you need to do everything you can within reason to try to increase your win rate. Things like rakeback and making good use of VIP programs is very important. Now you may say, are sit and goes still beatable? At the small stakes, they are. At the medium and high stakes, though, not so much. Why? Because the game was kind of simple. So, I'm not going to say that sit and goes are completely dead, but I do not recommend my students play sit and goes. Instead, they have to play tournaments or cash games. Let's discuss tournaments first, because, well, they have one big problem. The problem is they have massive variance. You will rarely get a big win. And if you play a spread of buy-ins, let's say you play between $500 tournaments and $3,500 tournaments, You may be unlucky and just happen to win your $500 buy-in games and lose all your $3,500 buy-in games. This is not going to be a full discussion on poker bankroll. We do have an article at pokercoaching.com/bankroll. Go check that out. We discuss things like average buy-in there. If any of these terms we are discussing are unfamiliar to you, check out that article at pokercoaching.com/bankroll. Understand, if you play live poker tournaments, and that's all you play, you will have losing years. Some people don't like that. They think that means it's all luck. Or mostly luck. And to be fair, there is a lot of luck and variance in that time frame. But remember, we're not concerned with time frame. We are concerned with how many games are you playing. And when you play live poker tournaments, you just don't get to play all that many. So you have to plan accordingly. I recommend every single poker player I teach who demands to play only tournaments, which I don't necessarily recommend, I strongly recommend they have like a year's worth of living expenses set aside or more. Ideally more. Because you will go on big downswings. Now, of course, you can move down in stakes when you're doing poorly and your bankroll gets smaller. You can move up in stakes when your bankroll gets bigger. None of these graphs we're showing here will presume you're doing that. Also, this tournament graph I'm about to show you presumes we are playing $100 buy-in tournaments with a 12% rake, and that's it. I realize you might be playing bigger or smaller, which is going to make the variance be a little bit more choppy. So keep that in mind. Again, though, as you zoom out, you will see that the results typically converge into a nice straight-up line. Just maybe not as quickly as you would like. So let's take a look at a good live winning poker player. They are playing with a 50% return on investment in $100 buy-in 250-player tournaments. As you play tournaments with more and more players, you're going to experience more variance. As you play with a smaller return on investment, you're going to experience more variance. Or at least you won't be up quite as often. So, is 50% return on investment in a $100 buy-in live tournament actually doable? I think it probably is, but it's close. Like, this is what a good winning player is going to experience, okay? If you're not a good, strong, world-class player, it might be worse. Also, I'm presuming you're only going to play 20 games a month. If you're a full-time pro, you will inevitably be re-entering, and you'll be playing more than only 20 days per month, I hope. If you're a hardcore grinder, maybe you get to put in 40 tournaments a month, which is good. Increasing the volume will get you to the long run faster, which is vital. We'll be discussing that later. So here are the results that are possible in 1 month playing 20 games per month. As we can see here, the results are all over the place. And actually, you're down most of the time. Take a look at this. If this is the 0 line, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Roughly 7 times out of 20, you're up any amount of money. We'll be up $1,000 on average each month doing this, okay? I was looking at this line right in here. Yeah, so anyway, $1,000 will be up on average. So, keeping that in mind, 13 or so out of 20 times we're down, at least in this sample. Are you cool with that? Are you cool playing 20 games and being down? A lot of people aren't. A lot of people don't like being down, but get used to it. Also notice the very jarring nature of this graph compared to my sit and go graph. If we go back to, let's say, 1 month of sit and goes, even 1 day of sit and goes, notice that our graph is way more smooth, right? It's like up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. Whereas if we look at the tournament graph, it's like down, 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 spike, down, 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 trickle, 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 right? Down, 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 spike, down, 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 spike, down, 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 spike. You're often going to be down from your peak when you play tournaments. And some people don't like that. They like to think that they're up. And for some reason, they always compare up to the highest point they've ever been up. But that's not how it works. All right. Let's zoom out a little bit. Always zoom out a little bit. What about 1 year of live poker? Again, 240 games. Maybe you can play double this, maybe even a little bit more, especially during peak season, like times where you can go play a lot of live tournaments with re-entries. Maybe there's a tournament in the day and one at night. Whatever. You can do stuff to increase your volume. We'll, again, be discussing that later. As we see, we'll be up, what is this? $12,000 over the course of a year on average. Then take a look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times we got above that $12,000. The rest of the time, we are not. And also notice, over the course of a year, if this is roughly the break-even line, and this 20-year run at least, we had, I call it 3 years where we were down. That's actually tame. I bet if we ran this again, there'd be more of them that are down. And that's normal, right? Notice 70% of the time we are going to be up. The question is, how much are we going to be up 70% of the time? It looks like between about $2,500 and $21,000. So, 70% of the time you're up. And a lot of people look at this and say, wow, so you're telling me 3 times out of 20 we can be down. That means poker's all luck. Well, the problem is you're only looking at 240 games. You may say, isn't that a long time? Yeah, but time is not the metric you need to be concerned with. Let's zoom out 5 years of live poker. Again, presuming 250 player tournaments with 50% win rate. Now you win, well, basically every time. 99.7% of the time, you will break even or be up. How lovely. Could you imagine playing for 5 years and being break even? It'll happen sometimes. Notice though, 95% of the time, you're going to be up $20,000 playing $10 or $100 buy-in tournaments. Not great, but not terrible. Sometimes you're going to be up a load. If you have a great run, you're going to be up, how much? $100,000. A lot of money playing $100 buy-in tournaments. Obviously, though, you're going to, on average, be in this spot. You're up like, what, 12K? Or, I'm sorry, 60K. So, as you see, as you zoom out farther and farther, your results start getting closer and closer. And again, sure, sometimes you are going to run hot over that 5-year sample. Some people are going to run poorly over that 5-year sample. But you will see that as you play longer and longer and longer and longer and longer, people's results start to converge if they have the same return on investment. Okay? And by the way, you can look at this where you see in live poker, some players who have been around for a long time now, and we are getting to the point where some live poker players have been around a pretty good long time. I'm just going to use myself here because we can poke holes in me. I started playing live tournaments in 2006, and I've had probably 3 or 4 really good years, and the rest have been just okay. And what is that, like 15 years or so of live poker? And if you look here, I should expect to have 3 or 4 really good years, right? We have 1, 2, 3 really good years out of 20. It's about right. All my other years have been fine. Some of them have been losing. 4 or 5 have been losing. Most of the other ones are slightly positive. And if you observe, that is kind of what we should expect. A lot of people really focus on only what happened recently, though. They see someone who's running ungodly hot, the times they win Player of the Year trophies and whatnot, and think, oh my God, they're the best player in the world. Probably just lucky. Going back to luck, right? But over time, the results converge. And you have to understand that if you put in volume, the variance will smooth itself out. Let's take a look now at online poker players. Online tournament players. Again, I'm going to presume you're not putting in all that much volume. I would hope you're putting in more than this. Let's say you now have a 20% return on investment in $100 buy-in games. Again, maybe that's possible, maybe it's not. And you're going to play 150 games a week. 30 tournaments a day. Not that many. You can put in more, I promise you. Take a look at it after a week. Results are all over the place again, right? Usually down. Lots of down results. A few big spikes, right? Look at this player. Down, 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 spike. Down, 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 spike. Down, down, spike. Down, spike. That's the biggest winner. Look at this player here. They were... kind of hard to see. I think they were down, 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 spike, down, 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 spike, and then just trickle all the way down. They were up $25,000. They bled back down to about 16. $9,000 downswing from the peak. Oh my God, they're running so bad, right? That's what a lot of people think. You got to get all this nonsense out of your head. Let's zoom out. What about after a month? Same story. Wow, look at this. There's a lot of them down this time. Here's the break-even line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. About 9 out of 20 are down over the course of a month. Normal stuff. Get used to it. Zoom out to a year. Starting to look kind of dirty. This is 7,500 games. This is why a lot of people think there's a ton of luck. The problem here, though, is the small return on investment and, I don't know if I pointed this out, 1,000-player tournaments. There is a lot of variance in 1,000-player tournaments. Notice, though, the results start to even out a bit. Like right here, this is a huge upswing. 500 buy-in upswing or something like that. I mean, that's just humongous. Doesn't look like anything, though, right? This person right off the bat, 250 buy-in upswing. The biggest loser here had multiple big scores. Just kind of ran bad, though. And you have to understand that if you're playing with a small edge, ideally you're playing in a game that does not have a ton of variance. And if this player instead played 100-person tournaments with a 20% ROI, their results would be way more smooth. A lot of players, they want to try to get rich quick. They want to win these tournaments and turn $100 into $1 million. I hate to break it to you. It doesn't happen all that often. So as you see, after a year, 5% of the time in online poker, playing 7,500 games, you could be down. You cool with that? If you're not cool with that, then maybe it's not for you. It is okay for a form of poker to not be for you. A lot of people think they just want to play tournaments. Why? They like the competition. That is a ridiculous answer, in my opinion. Sorry to all those who said that, but it's true. If you're playing for competition, you're inevitably not playing to try to win money, right? And if you get flustered and mad when you lose, because a lot of competitive people don't like to lose, that may not be good because you're going to lose a lot in tournaments just naturally. As we see here, 5% of these people who are good online poker players, putting in okay volume, they're going to lose over the course of a year. I don't care about years, though. Zoom out. After 5 years, everybody wins. Who'd have thought? Volume, cures, variance. Once again, 0.3% of the time, you're only going to win about $200,000 over the course of 5 years. The worst run you could possibly expect, you're only going to make $40,000 per year. Tough luck for you, huh? Only $40K a year if you run like absolute poopy. If you run ungodly hot, you can win $1 million and change. On average, you're going to make $750K. That's a lot of money. Could you imagine playing online poker, $100 buy-in games, and making $750,000 in 5 years if you just have the patience to put in the grind? You don't get impatient. You don't think you got to get rich quick. You just put your butt in the chair, play medium volume, and you crush the games. Now, I will say again, 20% ROI in $100 poker tournaments may be difficult. Maybe you got to play $50 games and you make half as much. Whatever. Find a game you can beat, play it a lot, and keep a proper bankroll. And again, people who's going to say it's all luck, they're going to say, look, the biggest winner wins 1.2. The person who did poorly won 300K. Look at that spread. Tons of luck. But again, it's just math, right? You realize most of the results are going to fall in this 70% spread, 95 in this second spread here, and, you know, it's just math. It's a math game. Poker is a math game at the end of the day when you look at things like your results. Again, the swings are not going to be quite as clear as this because you're going to be playing different buy-in spreads. So your results may be even more choppy than this. But over the long run, we could even zoom out further and further, zoom out to 50 years if you want to do it for forever. Then everybody just smashes it, right? Don't be impatient. Everyone is impatient. I don't know why everyone's so impatient. I was very fortunate that I found sit and goes back in the day. And I very, very quickly realized this. This is good. This is what you want. You want to just put in volume, play a lot, and win every time. But tournaments, here's a year of tournaments, of online tournaments. That's dicey. Here's a year of that's a year of online tournaments. Here's a year of live tournaments. That's really dicey, right? 5 years of live tournaments, also pretty dicey. So, is there a solution? Well, the solution is cash games. Cash games are the key to consistency because you will either win or lose a few buy-ins each day. And you're rarely going to have gigantic downswings, assuming you are playing with an edge. You're going to find that your wins are generally just more consistent. And cash games are ideal if you don't like a ton of variance. And hate to break it to all of you out there, none of us really like a ton of variance because none of us like being down 200 buy-ins. It's not fun. It's hard to grind out of a 200 buy-in downswing. If you're down 200 buy-ins in tournaments, it's hard to show up and play great the very next day after just getting crushed again. But you better get used to it if you're going to play tournaments. In cash games, though, you're not going to feel that way a lot of the time. Let's take a look at some live cash game results. Here we have, same thing, 20 samples. Here's a good live cash game player winning roughly 10 big blinds per hour. Here's one day, 240 hands, regular 8-ish hour day. As we see, results are all over the place. It's ridiculous. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Here's the zero line right here. As we see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 or 7 times we're break even. 13 times we're up. Sure, fine, something like that. Obviously, in games that have more variance, you're going to experience more swings, especially in the short term. As your edge is smaller, maybe you're not winning 10 big blinds per hour. your results are going to be closer in the down direction, right? That said, I have plenty of students who today, in 2023, are winning at 10 big blinds per hour or more in live cash games, up to 10-20 no limit in major casinos around the world. So I know for a fact this win rate is achievable. And it's what, I mean, I used to win at like 12 big blinds per hour back when I played a lot at Bellagio, 5, 10, and 10-20. So I know it's doable. So keep that in mind. We're going to look at a lower win rate in a minute because I realize maybe you don't win this much. All right, what about a week? Still all over the place. As you see, break-even line is here. We're going to have 1, 2, 3 or 4 losing weeks out of 20. Again, mostly trickling in the upward direction, though, right? Starting to not look so bad. It already looks like a year of tournaments or something, right? Let's zoom out a little bit more. What about a year? After a year of live cash games, winning 10 big blinds per hour, you win literally every time, and it's not even close. It's not even close. And this is only 60,000 hands, which is actually not a lot. We're going to discuss online poker in just a second. As you see here, you win a large chunk basically every time. And again, this green line here, I know it's kind of tough to see. These green line, the light green line are 70% intervals. This dark green line is 95%. So you see 95% of the time, you're up, 25,000 big blinds, 250K, down to, at 5, 10, no limit, down to 17, or 12, what am I saying? Down to 13,000 big blinds, so 130K. So you're either going to win between 130K and 250K playing 5 to no limit, just sitting your butt in the chair and grinding. Not too bad, right? Not too bad at all. Look, this person ran like trash. They ran like absolute trash. If they were playing 5 to no limit, they would have only won $125,000. Tough luck, buddy. Tough luck. Here we have 5 years. Keep zooming out. This person continued running like trash. Maybe they ran bad. They cursed the poker gods. Look, sometimes you're going to run badly. This person only won $700,000 over the course of 5 years. Tough luck. Tough luck. A lot of people don't like looking at this chart, though, because it demands you have an edge. This chart demands you have 10 big blind per hour win rate. A lot of people can't do it, won't do it. They goof off too much. They do not make a point to game select hard. They do not make a point to put in good volume. They don't play 300,000 hands in 5 years. They play 120 because they want to go out and party on nights and weekends. You got to have discipline to get this graph. But I promise you, this graph is nice. This is what my live cash game graph looks like. I mean, it's just straight up over the long run. Again, day to day, it's all over the place. Long run, no joke, just straight up. Let's take a look at the cash games online. We're going to presume this is a good cash game player winning at 5 big blinds per 100 hands. Okay? That's what roughly a good cash game player can expect to achieve, maybe smaller at the higher stakes. I'm also going to presume they can play about 960 hands per day. This was, 6 hours of 4 tabling, something like that, I presumed. Maybe you play more, maybe you play less. Back when I used to play a lot of Zoom poker, when I was really working on getting good at poker, I would play about 5,000 hands per day, which is obviously 5 times this. So you can play a lot of hands if you learn to multi-table, but as you play more and more tables, typically your win rate is going to decrease. So anyway, over the course of a day, 960 hands, results all over the place. You know, you've seen this chart already. After a week, 4,800 hands, all over the place. Notice here again, lots of down results. That's because our edge is much smaller here. Our edge is like 1/6 the size of the big live winner. Online poker is way tougher than live poker, for those who do not know. What about after 4 weeks? This is 1 month. 1 month of online play, 19,200 hands, about a third of a year live. As you see, results are still all over the place. Woo, look at this person. This person got trounced. This is one of these like super duper outliers. It happens. Get used to it. Notice though, we still lose 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 times out of 20. 4 or 5 times out of 20, we're going to have losing months playing about 19,000 hands in online poker with a decent win rate. Are you cool with that? If you're not cool with that, either get cool with it or realize you're going to be unhappy a lot and poker may not actually be for you. The answer to variance is not to complain about it. It is to accept it and plan accordingly. Let's zoom out a little bit more. Here we have a year. 1 year of online poker. Still some losers. Actually, only 1 loser. And that's very uncommon. As we see here, 95% of the time are going to be up. About, what, 2,500 big blinds. It's pretty good. It's not great, but it's pretty good. Obviously, nice upside. And again, zoom out. 5 years, everyone wins. The worst person, poor person, only wins 25,000 big blinds in 5 years. Is that right? Did I do that math right? That looks right. Everyone wins in the long run. Now, of course, you may win twice as much as somebody else given the same sample size with the same win rate, but everybody's winning in the long run. I'm tired of hearing people cry about variance. Okay? So, what can you do to not cry about variance so much? First things first, jack up your volume. You need to play a lot. And I highly recommend that you really focus on putting in volume because most people do not. They'll go to the casino, they'll play a tournament, they'll bust, they'll go to dinner, they'll have a drink, they'll go home. Don't drink and drive. But that's what they do. And you're wasting your time. One tournament is nothing. So when you go to the casino, make sure you're properly bankrolled. Again, check out pokercoaching.com/bankroll. And be ready and willing to re-enter. You may get to play the tournament 3 or 4 or 5 times. Every time you play that tournament, you're extracting some edge. Make sure you account for that. Your edge will be smaller as you buy in later. Often. Not always, but often. And that will let you get in substantially more buy-ins, right? If you go to play cash games, plan ahead so that whenever you show up, you can get right in a game. You're not waiting on a list for 2 hours. Because when you're waiting around doing nothing for 2 hours, you get to play 0.0 hands. 0.0 hands is not very many. You want to make sure you're in the action. Especially when you're first starting poker. Whenever you do not know you have an edge, because nobody knows if they have an edge when they first start, you really need to focus on putting in volume because that will let you know quickly if you actually have an edge. Which is why I recommend every single one of my students put a little bit of money in an online poker site and play micro stakes. View it like money you're putting in to go see a movie. That money is gone, even if the site screws you because it's an unlicensed, unregulated card site. Doesn't matter. You're going to put $50 in there. If you lose it, it's fine. You need to prove that you can turn that $50 into $100. And you can turn that $100 into $200. And if you can quadruple your tiny buy-in, playing somewhat properly bankrolled, treating it like that's all the money you have, you're going to be able to do it in other venues, presumably live, right? If you can beat Tiny Stakes online, you can probably beat Tiny Stakes live. And that is going to be very valuable information. If you cannot beat the games, you know, maybe you need to be working on your skills. You do need to be working on your skills. Now, I will say micro stakes online, sometimes they rake a ton and almost no one wins. Keep that in mind. And live poker super duper soft. But unless you have a lot of disposable income, it's quite risky to just take $5,000 and use that as a poker bankroll to play live poker to see if you can do okay with it. So I always recommend everyone start slow and take their time. I don't know if I preface this video with this. This video presumes you don't mind putting in time. Everyone wants to get rich quick, but poker is a horrible way to get rich quick. It's actually an amazing way to get rich slowly. 5 years. Online cash games with a okay win rate. You always win. 5 years of live cash games. You absolutely crush them. 5 years of tournaments. You crush them. Right? 5 years of live tournaments. Even then, with a ton of variance. Not even putting in all that many games. You crush them. And if you put in more volume, remember I said this isn't actually that many games. If you double this volume, it would look even nicer. Play around with that equity calculator, or that variance calculator we discussed earlier. Next, increase your volume, but also increase your edge. You saw that when we had a bigger edge, we win far more consistently. You can increase your edge by playing in soft games. I don't even know if I have been adamant about game selection in my poker career, but maybe I have been. Whenever I would play live cash games, I would always try to get a very good seat in a very good game. I would change tables, I would change seats, and that would result in me having a very profitable seat. If you go to the casino and they put you at a seat and you just sit there for the next 8 hours, you have a random seat. Would you rather get the best seat in the room or a random seat? I'd rather get the best seat in the room. You got to work for that. In tournaments, I don't play every single tournament that runs. I try to play high value tournaments. And I especially focused on that whenever I was in the bankroll building phase of my career. So do your best to try to play in soft games where you have an edge. Also, study a ton, because you don't always get to pick your seat. Sometimes you do get a bad seat and you're not going to get out of it for a while. So you need to make sure that even in bad seats, you have a good chance and that you do have an edge even in those bad spots. So you got to work hard at poker. Find a form of poker that you love and study it a ton. I realize, though, again, a lot of people are going to say, I like to compete in tournaments. But if you don't like variance and you're not going to play with a proper bankroll and you don't like being down, tournaments may not be for you. Okay? Keep that in mind. Study, constantly improve your skills. I have a poker training site called pokercoaching.com. Did you all know that? Check out pokercoaching.com. We have a tournament and cash game masterclass there. They're about 40 hours long. 10-minute videos each. Well, 40 hours broken into 10-minute videos with quizzes after every video, lots of examples, lots of explanations, and lots of strategies that you can put into place to help you have an edge, especially in the small and medium stakes games. So check that out if you want to improve your skills. So that's it. I know this video is long, but again, please realize there's a lot of variance in the short run. Anyone can win in the short run. There's almost no variance in the long run, and there's basically no variance in the extreme long run. The problem is that most people don't have the patience and the discipline to get to the extreme long run. But if you do, and you have a win rate, you have an edge, your graph will go straight up. Good luck, have fun. If you like this video, do me a favor, click the like and subscribe button below, share this video with your friends who thinks poker's all luck, and change their mind. I'll talk to all of you next time.